listening a little better for what we hear along
Good
the
point.
way.
We'll know what to look for.
It will be more observant along the way and be finding out what's going on, because I know that I hear comments throughout the year or throughout the several months now that that Kathleen's been on board, that give me a framework to work on in doing the evaluation.
That is a good point.
And-
Keep our ears open more going forward too, and make it part of
Well,
kind of
well,
your
keep-
responsibility when you're in the community to hear what people are saying.
Not only in the
Yeah.
community, but keep in mind throughout the year, we do interact with a lot of the members of the staff. I mean,
exactly.
whether we're at one of the other schools having a meeting or whatever, or that they're in here, so there is an opportunity to get that kind of information.
And I don't think that it's necessarily appropriate to keep book on somebody as you're going along,
No.
I mean, I can give a perfect example, high school graduation, you interact with a lot of
Yeah.
the teachers at the high school,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to get that kind of information. All right, so we do have a date set?
May
We
23rd.
do. May
they're due.
23rd will be handed in.
Okay.
Sure.
Next item, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Kathy.
you had an agenda today under continued business. C, the FY12, we skipped over the FY12 budget amount vote.
Yeah.
It's on the new agenda that you
Oh,
have.
okay, on the new agenda, okay, continue. FY budget amount,
Yes.
okay. That number's changed, I understand?
Yes, it has, and there's a slip of paper coming around.
Okay,
Provide a little context on this. As the committee knows, 2 weeks ago, the committee took a position on the FY12 North Reading Public Schools budget. At that time, there were numbers flying around in every direction. There were governor's numbers, House and Ways, means numbers, there was the town's available budget number. And as recently as about a week ago, the finance planning team confirmed the fact that the available funds figure is now slightly different from some of the other information that we had previously distributed. The present, you see in that document you have where it says FY12 available funds, and the number is $24,021,751. That is the available funds figure that the finance planning team is adopting as the North Reading Public Schools FY12 budget. That is approximately $9,700 less than the figure we had used previously. And in the recommendation that the superintendent and I have is to bridge the gap. You'll see under the proposed reductions, if we were to reduce the unemployment budget by $9,713, that would bring us into balance.
so you're comfortable we can absorb it there?
Yes, we are, because it appears now that our layoffs are being reduced based on the manner in which we've been able to identify these reductions.
Okay, so nothing else changes. The other proposed reductions are ones that we were already
Right,
aware of,
already approved.
the budget number we had voted on. So what we're gonna need is a motion to approve a fiscal year 2012 budget of $24,021,751.
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Ericetti. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Webster. Any further discussion on the new budget number? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion carries by a vote of 4-0. Thank you.
Fastest motion I've heard.
It's halftime, isn't it, Mike?
Not yet.
All right,
Not yet.
all right.
Not yet.
We have approval of a middle school drama club trip. The information has been provided by Mr. Fauché, the principal of the middle school. And it's out of state. I think it's only a day trip to New York City, but we're still required to approve it under our policy. And I think there are an appropriate number of chaperones on this trip. I think, what's our policy, Karen, 10 to 1? Okay, and I think we have 50 students and 5 chaperones. The cost of the trip is $125 per student. They have used fundraising to defray the cost of the trip, and it's again, I believe it is a day trip. So,
Is it?
That was 3:30.
No, that's a different trip.
Okay.
It's almost like they're not reading this. It says, I want to present this, I suggest presenting this as an idea to the committee, and if they're favorable we can continue our preliminary planning, making sure to note that all the committee's concerns are addressed and make a more formal presentation at a later date.
Well,
So
it-
it's almost like they're
This
not.
is the later date. Look at the date of
March
this.
25th, Mile, is the date
This
of
is
the
the
talk.
original memorandum.
So this is the original memorandum from the
To me.
25th.
Oh,
But
so-
we now have all the information.
Oh, okay.
They're going to see this.
All right,
I
okay.
remember actually, I think,
They've
when they
seen
sent
this.
that
So
letter.
I
haven't
thought
seen
they were
it.
just looking for a consensus, they could go ahead and,
Oh, it's a different-
I thought they were just looking for consensus, they could go ahead and then we'd vote on the formal.
No, I mean,
Okay.
Right, this is the
trip
formal now. They're asking for your vote.
Okay.
Ms. Willis, are there any students that are excluded from this for financial reasons?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the middle school trip for the drama club?
I'll make a motion to approve the middle school drama club trip, which is a one-day trip to New York City for the fall of 2011.
And do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Webster and a second by Mr. Kuchacki.
That's close, you
That
get
was
there.
close, sir.
It's gonna be fun.
Any further discussion?
Get to tease 'em.
No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries by a vote of 4-0. We also have another trip that Sarah Murray, our student rep, discussed today that she took over the weekend that for, and I think I'm going to ask the superintendent just to give us an explanation, was not submitted to the committee for approval, contrary to our policy. And it was kind of a little bit of a panic at the last minute as to the confusion on the failure to get approval. I think each of the members had some discussion with the superintendent. I know I did. No, I'm sorry, I had discussion with Mr. Bernard, actually. And they did, in fact, go on the trip over the weekend. So I'd
That's
ask the superintendent to just give us an explanation.
Sure. This is an annual trip, and it is planned by our teachers of the the performing arts at the high school. This year, one of our teachers in the performing arts left mid-year on a maternity leave. She thought that the other teacher had submitted it, and he thought she had submitted it for our approval. So just before the trip, Mr. Bernard was checking in with the teacher that was attending and asked the teacher if, in fact, he had received confirmation that the trip had been approved, and he had not. At that point in time, the building principal gave me a call, and then he gave the chair a call and spoke to other members of the committee. We were very concerned because when you take a trip out of state, it's part of the policy to have that approved by the school committee prior to attending. But because this is a trip that has occurred every year, I felt that based on the details that were provided to me, because I was out of the district at a conference in Boston that day, I felt that in fact there were the appropriate number of chaperones and that there was a lot of history around this trip in this district of it being very successful. And so I said with permission that they would be able to attend as long as the chair felt that this was something that he felt we could do as well. So there was lots of conversation, lots of concern. I know there's concern on the part of the committee, and we will work very hard for this never to happen again.
Mr. Webster?
If I could, so I received a call from Mr. Bernard, I think it was probably 3 o'clock or 3:30 on Friday afternoon.
Right.
And I expressed to him my unhappiness with the situation because something like this shouldn't happen. Whether it's a mistake or not, we're on the hook for these kids. And he assured me, he told me all the documents he had in front of him. He told me the number of chaperones. He told me the number of students going, where they were staying. A number of the chaperones have been chaperones in the past. And it's a trip we've approved numerous times in the past. He did ask if I could schedule an emergency meeting, and I told him I didn't think I could schedule one before 5 o'clock the next morning when they were leaving. I didn't think I could get
Right.
the members together for that.
Well,
So
it'd be tough to do it. You couldn't post for it anyway. so.
exactly. So I told him, I said, I can't make this decision, but he informed me they'd already spent $17,000, $330 per student participating in this. I felt comfortable that he had given me all the information that we would have gotten as a committee, and I hoped I used common sense in saying, I think it's okay, what is this, go back to superintendent, and I also said, there's a likelihood that Mr. Venezia will be chairman next week after the reorg. You should speak with him, and you should also notify all the other committee members. All of that said, I'll tell you that I was a little nervous this past weekend when they were down in New York because we hadn't approved this trip.
Right. It was one of the first things I did on today when we got back to work. And again, you heard Sarah speak about it, so
Yes.
they had a wonderful time.
It's a
Great
great
time.
trip. They always have had a good time. It's
There
educational.
were no problems, I checked.
They participate in theater workshops with professional actors and directors and singers, and it's something that we want to encourage. But, Mr. Venezia and I were talking earlier, and he said you have to use common sense. But I will tell you, the next time around, I don't think it's going to be so easy. This can't happen. You can't
Yeah.
ignore the policies, whether intentional or unintentional.
Just for the record, there's nothing legally requires us to approve these
Right.
trips. However, it is a policy of this committee, and everyone's adhered to that policy in the past, and we'd certainly expect everybody to adhere to it in the future. I'm glad Mel made the decision he did, and Kathy, because I think it was a common sense decision that had to be made. I know I talked to John Bernard right after Mel did on Friday afternoon, and I told him the same thing, that unfortunately it was a mix-up, and but I think in the future, we're going to have to emphasize that these trips have to be approved in advance. And my understanding too is that they met all of the criteria from our
That's
policy.
correct.
Yes, they
They
did.
did.
Anyway, yeah.
They did.
Okay.
And I believe in the past, they've always put it in as early as the middle school is putting it in
Yeah.
now for their trip in November. It was one of those things that,
Okay. Any other comments from the committee members? Okay. Next on the agenda, we actually have on the revised agenda here a memorandum of understanding between the custodial negotiating group and the school department for a new 3-year contract. And the memorandum of understanding outlines the terms of the contract. Obviously, it does not become effective until we sign it and the membership of the custodians union ratifies it. So I'm looking again to see whether or not we can get approval for this. It's one of the first times I remember that we actually did a memorandum of understanding. Normally, we would approve the terms, the other side would approve the terms, and then they would put it out to a vote to their membership. So I'm going to be looking for a motion to approve, and if we want to have any pre-discussion before a motion,
Yeah.
we can certainly do that.
I'd like.
Mr. Webster?
So I just want to, just to clarify for the committee and the public, we'll vote for the memorandum of understanding tonight. Once it's agreed to by the custodian, the group representing the custodians, we will then disclose details, or how we, is that how it'll work?
Yeah, I think once both sides sign the memorandum of understanding, we can disclose the details, and then obviously it has to be put out for ratification. The group that represents the custodians, AFSCME Council 93, Local 1703, that's the custodial employees group, is that correct, Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And so it would, there'd have to be a signature from us and a signature from one of their representatives to approve the memorandum of understanding, and then it would go to the full membership for ratification. So again, the motion that I'd be looking for, if anyone cares to make it, I think would be to approve a new 3-year contract for the custodians, incorporating changes into the existing contract as enumerated in the memorandum of understanding dated May 9, 2011, to be effective pending ratification by the custodial union.
I can't repeat that motion, but I certainly will move.
Anyone wants to add to that, again, they certainly can.
I think that's appropriate, and I move that. I'm not repeating that.
Okay.
I'll second and then ask a question.
Okay, let's, we have a motion by Ms. Arricchetti, a second by Mr. Webster, and we are now open for discussion on the motion.
So, will this be our only vote on this, or will we vote for the contract?
I think this would be the only vote on it unless the membership does not ratify and we have to come back and
Okay.
negotiate new terms.
So we'll vote tonight. If we approve, then once they sign the memorandum, we will then reveal the details, so hopefully at our next meeting.
I don't see why not.
That's fine with it, because I'd like to see that. I don't want it to be pushed, way out, so if we could get that signed before the next meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we do have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we have 3 in favor.